right. Hi, I'm Travis, the King of Source Point, and you're watching The Experience.
Hi, everybody. I'm Miss Jen, and you are here in my shop, Space Cadets Collection, on our live show on The Experience called Talking Shop. See? Shop. It's basically a very good way to learn what is coming out soon so you can add it to your pull list at your local comic shop, because that's what we want you to do, is to always end up at your own LCS, and so that you can support them, because they love comic books as much as you, clearly, because they opened a store. And they always need all the information that you do. So if you can tell them that you want it, they'll order it. And if you watch this show, you'll know that you want it, so you can tell them about it. So if you are new to comic books, or on your vacation right now, you can always use comicshoplocator.com to find a store near you. All you need is a zip code and put it in there, and you will get all the information that you need about all the shops that are close to you. All right, we've got 2 interviews back to back today. And for our first one, we've got both creators on the book, which makes me very happy. Welcome to the show, Jacob Free and Will Tempest.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Did you guys call each other and say, I'm gonna do my hair this way?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because we had to send some headshots for another interview the other day, and I realized that Will and I are the same person but in different continents. So I don't know, one of us is gonna have to get a haircut. I think that's where this is going.
Yeah, we should have done a call beforehand to synchronize, or so we can mix it up a bit. No, while we're wearing our hair, that
It even looks like, okay, it looks like Will has got it looks like purple on my screen. I don't know if it is like a shirt, and then it looks like there's plaid on Jacob. That's you guys could totally make a great picture together right now. I love it. So were you? So is your hairstyle and beard the same now as it was before everything started? So is it possible that this is a whole new look for you, or is this you always had long hair?
I think I've copied Will over the years. I think that's what's happened. I think when the first email I might have sent to Will, I might have been a short-haired person, and then over time, I just gave up on cutting it. And now we look like we're related.
Yeah, I've been cultivating this for a while, I've got to say. Very proud of it. Very proud of the length.
I gave up cutting my hair 3 years ago, so I was just like, oh well.
Pandemic haircut.
That's right. And I'm working on soon you will be able to climb my hair, if you need it with help from towers and things. Everyone has their lockdown locks. That's right. And Joey Galvez is on. He says hi.
Joey.
And
hey.
All the people are coming in saying hi. Oh, including there's lots of bots. Bots love us because we're a popular show.
Oh,
so
wow.
They come and visit us all the time, which is funny because we call our there you go, ban bots. Ban them. Kill them with fire.
I love all the graphics on this show. I've never the intro to this show and all the band image. This is a very professional stuff we've got going on here.
Better and better. It's all thanks to the production team, because technology scares me. I can talk into cameras and that's it.
Same.
So you guys, this is not your first work together, is it?
This is, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Never be able to tell. You guys are working together so well.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So how did you guys meet up? Were you put together by Scout, or did you find each other just from online? How did you meet each other?
I've been following Will for a while on online. I think maybe even back in the Tumblr days.
Tumblr days, I think, for sure.
Yeah, and I had taken a stab at writing Cities of Magick 1. I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, and I just wrote a very long email to Will, and that's how it happened. So that it's not a great story, but that's what happened.
Well, that's awesome. Okay, so Did you already, Jacob, have the idea for the series, and were you bouncing the idea off Will to see if it had holes in it, or you were like, "Hey, I hope he reads it and he's like, I must do this."
I think, well, definitely I definitely hope for that, for sure. I think the idea was, I wouldn't call it fully formed at all. It was a very bare bones attempt at a first issue, and I hadn't really thought beyond that, or outside of the world. And then when Will and I kind of started working on it, then it's really when it got to the place where it is now, which is much more expansive, and definitely much more detailed than it was when I first scribbled down the script 5 years ago.
So is it really hard to have that much time between the time you have the idea for a thing and the time when you actually kind of like you can see it just over the horizon that people are going to have it in their hands? Does it ever feel like this is never going to happen?
Yeah. Well, it's excruciating for me. I'm like an anxious person by nature. I don't know. Will seems like he might be a little bit tougher than I am, but I know we just kept working on it, and like every year I'd be like, oh my goodness, that's another year down on Cities of Magick.
Yeah.
And then we pitched it, and that's when, when someone said yes, at least there was the horizon. But for a while we were kind of laboring in the dark, so to speak, and we were putting out issues through Kickstarter and things like that, but I don't know. Did it feel like a long time to you, Will? For me, it's been long. I don't know.
It has, but no, it has. It has. Yeah. No, it just has. Yeah.
Joey's got a good question. It says, how did you convince each other to stick it out with such a large universe? Some creators would run. What kept you from leaving the other in the dust?
I mean, I think it's the thing, because we were both sort of making it. We were both contributing to it. It was a collaboration of coming up with it. So, we both had our things in there that we wanted to see, completely finalized. So I think that was it, really. It wasn't just sort of Jacob sending me a finished script and it's almost a work for hire thing on my end anyway. Yeah, it was definitely that collaboration, I think, that I could put my things in there that made me want to keep coming back, and Jacob had his stuff as well. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. There was I've collaborated with folks before, obviously, and there's a lot of different relationships that can kind of come out. You never know which one you're going to get until you start doing it. And thankfully, I think Will and I are really on the same page on a lot of stuff. And to Will's point, there was it was very gracious. Like Will would pitch me on stuff and I'd pitch him on stuff, and it would always be like, oh, what do you think? It was never like, I need to have this in here. Let's work around it. Any of that stuff. We kind of, as we went along, just started building onto this foundation, and yeah, putting the kind of things that interested us into the book. And that's really what powered it, for this whole time, throughout all 5 issues. We just put the stuff we thought was cool in the book, and it wound up being coherent, which is the achievement of it all. But it definitely worked out.
Okay, so you mentioned Kickstarter before, and I know that we have a lot of people that watch that are creators themselves. Will you speak to the differences in the creative process, or like even just the putting it out, the way you're thinking about it when you're doing Kickstarter versus when you partnered up with a really great publisher like Scout? What were the differences for you guys?
Well, first and foremost, you're just completely on your own, which is both empowering and kind of scary, because it's just really Will and I, and it's difficult. It's difficult to be critical of your own work, and it's difficult to proofread your own scripts and stuff like that. But it's very gratifying to be able to get it directly to a customer. And in many ways, it's not just delivering a book to a customer, but they're part of the process of creating the book. And we really took that to to its logical extreme in our Kickstarters, because we crowdsource not just the book itself, but the creation of certain characters, spells in the book, locations, things like that. And they all wound up in the book. And so when people, read the first issue and beyond, starting in March, they're not just reading the work of Will Tempest and Jacob Free, but they're also getting that crowdsourced experience, which is great. But then, of course, on the other hand, it's nice to have a serious professional publisher come in and say, we have editors, we have a printer, we have distribution, we have all the stuff that you've been doing, out of the cardboard boxes that are just off screen over here. They can help with that, and I think that's been great. And we also we made sure that the Scout editions of these books were different enough than the Kickstarter edition, so that if we did wind up asking people to buy the issues again, there was a justification for it. And so we have a whole bunch of backup comics in the new issues, new back matter, new covers, new back covers. Our editor at Scout, Andrea, helped us with some of those spelling mistakes. So that's all gone. All those mistakes are gone.
Yeah, he'll catch all that.
Yeah.
So, Will, what is your
Yes.
background? What is your art background? Are you a self-taught artist? Did you go to school for it?
I went to university for graphic design, actually, and realized quite quickly on I didn't want to be a graphic designer. So, and I'd always drawn, and so just just self-taught from there, really. And from there, been do some storyboarding stuff, some stuff for RPGs, comics. It's good.
Yeah, I appreciate. I went and looked on the Instagram link stuff, and your art style is very distinctive.
Thank you.
Do you ever push yourself? Do you always put yourself in the same wheelhouse, or do you have other things that are so different that people might not even recognize your work?
No, I think it's usually just my style, I suppose. I don't know. I would like to try and do that. I think the difficulty I find with that is being happy with it at the end and being able to accept that this is the sort of style that I'm doing that in. Usually, I'm just sort of sweating over it, and then oh no, I'm gonna have to go back and redraw that how I would normally draw it. I can't. Yeah, but it's something I'd like to definitely experiment with, I think.
Joey's got a good question. He wants to know, what are some of your art style inspirations?
It's so funny because I was trying to think before the show. I was like, this might come up, and now I'm struggling and my mind's gone blank. But
I always think that yours is a little bit Jeff Darrow.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I don't know. It's difficult. I think at a certain point, it just comes from you get it from all over the place. Definitely, when I was younger, there was sort of maybe comic artists that I would, like Mike Mignola and stuff like that I'd sort of really enjoy. Well, and still do now, but would try and sort of do a style similar to that. But I think after a certain point, you just sort of practice. You're just sort of doing your practice, and you get your own processes and things, and it's developing your own style just completely naturally. There's no trying to force anything really. What comes out, I suppose, is the thing.
Are you a person that likes to look at practical objects for inspiration, or are you one of those magical people that can just pull things out of your brain? I really do think that there's some kind of magic to it, because I could not, without looking at an object in front of me, draw anything at all.
Again, I think it's just practice, because it's just and figuring out how things work, and then you can interpret that into a different thing, I suppose, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
or answers the question at all.
It really does. Like the experience of drawing a thing will help you draw another thing. That's really
Yeah,
good.
exactly. Yeah.
I'm always like, this is like seriously me trying to figure out how that thing works in people's brains, because I've often thought that you're either born with it or you're not. That just that part of the skill set itself feels like you would have to spend decades of your life trying to perfect it if it was not innate.
I mean, I do think it is a thing that it's learned. It's from sort of observation and drawing those things that exist, and it kind of just comes together at some point. I don't know.
No, Will, you're supposed to say, I'm magical.
I was born this way, and it's been so good. It's
my secret superpower.
Yeah.
So for anybody that's watching that's not familiar with your other work, Will, what else would people have seen your art in?
I did Image Comics book material with Alice Cott. I did an issue of Zero as well. And then, if I've forgotten something, it's going to be really embarrassing. But
with all your RPG work too.
Yeah, sure. So Lancer RPG, a couple for Evil Hat, which put out RPGs, and
so when you say you've done work for RPGs, that mean the illustrations that they have in the books when they have like
okay.
So that's totally from your imagination. You can't look at something to be inspired because those aren't based normally in.
That's it. Yeah.
Exist. That's awesome. I've never ever talked to anyone that got to help design RPG stuff. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's great. I really like it. Yeah.
And how did they get started? That kind of feels like something like you just have to have known someone that's making theirs and then done something for them, and then the word on the street is that Will can draw real cool stuff.
I mean, the Evil Hat stuff, I emailed them and was like, can I draw something for you? But with the Lancer stuff and some of the others, it's just the magic of Twitter. So you'll end up with a DM one day, and yeah.
Oh, Joey's giving us advice. Looks like he's got to run to go do something. It says, listen to the House. What? The House of Indie podcast. Tell me about this. I don't know what this is.
We've been on the podcast train the last week or so. We recorded a conversation with Joey on the House of Indie podcast. I think that was Friday. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So we've been getting out there.
Joey's the bee's knees. I love Joey.
Yeah, he's great. It was great speaking to him.
Yeah.
So Jacob, how about you? What other things would people know you from?
Oh, that's a good question. So my first comics work was a webcomic about a decade ago called Tommy Centro, which is now defunct. And I wound up printing it into a new volume called The Cycle. But that ran for many years, and the gimmick was that each issue was a different artist. So I worked with a lot of great people on that. And then after that, I had a comic in Spike Trotman's New World anthology, which was cool. I think that was my first print work in about 2015 or 2016. And that was great because I was definitely not the most popular person in that book, and there was a lot of famous people in it, and so I felt like I had finally made it. And then I've been doing a lot of self-published stuff before Cities of Magick. So I have a book called War Terminus with a Canadian artist named Alchemichael, which was about shrinking mercenaries that go into people's bodies to fight cancer cells and things like that.
Tell me that name of that one again.
War Terminus.
All right,
it's very good.
Thank you. I could shoot you an email with the title after. And yeah, I did an all ages superhero book called Suburban and Chicken Hawk, which was about a pair of cousins who fight crime in the suburbs. And the joke was that, you know, there never are any super villains in the suburbs, so they're very bored all the time. And and yeah, I think. Oh, and Rabbit Hole with Dave Chisholm, which who has a book out at with Scout. He's great. We did a book about an alien in a cybernetic suit of rabbit armor, fighting crime in Brooklyn. So that's what I was doing before me and Will started working on Cities of Magick, and then yeah, the last couple of years it's really been mostly Cities of Magick stuff. Because this is the first series that I've done where it's, you know, one writer, one artist the whole way through, and we're co-creating everything. So it's been, at least for me, labor intensive. I'm sure for Will as well. And so I haven't really had time to do anything else, but that's what I was up to beforehand.
So if you wanted so you just met someone on the street and you were trying to pitch this book to them, how would you describe it to just the regular layman?
Sure. The elevator pitch we've been doing is Lord of the Rings meets the Wild West, or, you know, the man with no name meets Lord of the Rings. A lot of different variations, but really, when it gets down to it, it's a future fantasy Western. So future because it takes place 150 years from now, fantasy because there's a lot of magic, and Western because the main character is a cowboy, for lack of a better term. Who doesn't love magic, and so he gets himself into quite a bit of trouble in a world powered by it. But yeah, that would be the simplest way of explaining it. And of course, after issue 1, we go off in a wild direction.
Okay, so if we're doing space-ish Western, are we far enough ahead in 150 years that there are horses or not horses?
So one of the cool things that Will and I did during our pre-production phase was kind of come up with a lot of or reinvent the classic fantasy animals and things like that. So, you know, we do have unicorns and we do have minotaurs and things like that, but we've concocted a whole different origin for those kind of creatures. That's sort of science fiction. We explain it. We explain how something like that could happen, because it is our future. It's not a Middle Earth kind of thing. It's not a, you know, Game of Thrones kind of place, which is like vaguely European medieval world, but it's 150 years from this future. And so we needed to figure out how you get a unicorn there, and we did. It's up to the readers to decide whether it's convincing or not, but we did come up with a reason. And it all stems from this magic resource, and which is, I think, the novel side of the unique side of what we've created. We invented a whole new version of magic, how it works. It's a physical resource in the world. It comes from the ground. People have to hold it. They have to contain it. It powers their cities. So it's both fuel source and kind of like a creation engine. And anything that comes into contact with it can be changed. And that's how we explained a lot of the classic sort of fantasy stuff, but with our own little spin on it.
I love when a book feels like this could really happen, if that makes sense. It feels like you can really put yourself into a story like that. It doesn't, because sometimes if it's too fantastical, it's hard to imagine the things that they're like. When you read a book and they've created a million new terms for what things are called in their universe, it's, you know, if you get to your 5th issue, then those things are things that you're used to what they're called, but it takes a lot of mental energy to say, no, that's not this, it's called a something else. So this feels like it's much easier to get into and identify with, is like this is a rich, alive universe.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the challenges and one of the joys of working on this book was that Will and I spent a lot of time thinking about how the ruins of this world would be co-opted by this new society. So we still have subways, but they don't work the way they do currently. And we still have, obviously, the old buildings in Old York City and Chicago, but they're not filled with the same kind of shops and places of business that they are now. So we actually used like the old husk of this current world as the kind of the substrate for the things we were doing in our future story. So it is grounded in a kind of reality. Obviously, we there's some things we can't do yet, but yeah.
Well, you had something you wanted to input, I think.
Oh, I was just shifting, but it was there's no reason, there's no evidence to suggest this future couldn't happen. So
Right.
I always like to say I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I do love reading comics to try to figure out what the internal conspiracy is for what the through line is that could happen, or what you're pulling into the universe that exists in ours that make it feel more real like that. So that, yeah, I'm going to totally eat up this book. You said March for the release for Cities of Magick?
Yep, March 16th, issue 1. And then I think there's a 2-month break after that, and then monthly following.
Yeah, that helps a lot for people to be able to have a time to catch up with their pile of books that they buy, because everyone loves their comic books.
Oh, yeah.
I thought time to read it and then get to add it to their pull list, because sometimes that's the hiccup, right? You're like, number 2 comes out and you're like, oh, I forgot to read number 1. Now I don't know if I need this book.
Right. Yeah, when the folks at Scout told us that was the schedule, I actually thought it was brilliant. You hear so often about retailers having to kind of make these decisions well in advance without enough time to know if the books are good, if they're if their customers like them and things like that. And 2 months seems like a good time to kind of figure it out and then decide, the trajectory of your orders. So that's cool, and it gives readers time too, which is great.
Oh yeah. Looks like we're in our last minute or so. Do you guys want to share your social media? Where is the best place to follow you for the up-to-date news for what you guys are doing next?
Sure. I am Jacob_free on Twitter and Instagram, and you can find me at my website, jacobfree.com.
I have a website, willtempest.com, and if you just search my name on Twitter and Instagram, you'll find me.
It's a very nice, well-organized site.
Thank you. I'm still working on it.
I'm a rabbit trail of clicking every single link. Well, thank you guys so much. I'm excited for the release date for you guys. I know you guys are working hard to make more issues.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It was a joy to speak with you, and good luck on everything.
Hopefully we'll catch up after we get the first couple of issues out. We'll catch up and see.
Absolutely.
What you guys
are up to. Definitely.
Thank you so much. I'll see you guys in a minute. Don't go anywhere, everybody. We've got another interview coming up next.
They say it, and it's true, that everything is getting faster. You're not getting any younger, and time is the single resource that you can never get back or get any more of. So why walk into your local comic shop blind when you can go in laser focused on the best books on the shelf?
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Minute to Skim It. Yeah!
Spend 1 hour with Miss Jen and Bean, and they'll give you rapid-fire reviews of all the new comics hitting stores. Spend less time shopping and more time reading.
This is Provenance of Secrets.
This is The Heathens. I read Wolverine number 17.
Minute to Skim It, every Tuesday at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, on The Experience. Comic culture and sales.
There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit comicshoplocator.com to find a store near you.
awesome interview. I love getting to talk to Jacob and Will about their cool book, Cities of Magick by Scout Comics, coming out in March. But we've got another book that's coming out very, very soon. We're going to get to talk to Chris Hastings about Hell, Sonja.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
It was like there was a second of like, uh-oh. Hey, Chris, how are you doing?
Great. Thank you for having me.
All right, so I'm so stoked about this book because it does what some other Dynamite books have done recently, which is kind of take a character that we're used to and we feel like we might know everything about, but allowing the universe to kind of open up and have more stories be told about other versions that might exist of them, which is the way I understand this to be rolling out. So was this something that you approached Dynamite with as an idea?
Well, Hell, Sonja, as you alluded to, is sort of an alternate universe version of Red Sonja, which came out of our previous title, Sonjaversal, which we it's a bull.
Is that on my end, the freeze?
No, I think that's Chris. Oh, there he is. Oh, there he is. He's moving again. Uh-oh.
Chris is going to move to better zone. Love it.
All right. Oh. All right. Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Okay. I've moved closer to the internet router. Okay. So we were talking Sonjaversal, and basically Hell, Sonja is a spinoff of that. So yeah, it's been super fun to take kind of like the core idea of like the sword and sorcery of Red Sonja and then just like basically apply it to other genres. So like within Sonjaversal, we had like a Sonja Noir, which was like takes Red Sonja's attitude and make her like a detective in like a weird magic city. And with Hell, Sonja, now that we have all of these Red Sonja different characters, they basically all work together to hunt bounties across the multiverse, essentially taking villains from each different little world, which is its own kind of little genre story, and then kill a bad guy there to send them to the hell that's connected to all of them.
Oh my word. So on the solicitation, it was saying that there's such thing as a blue Sonja and a moon Sonja and a gold Sonja. What?
Yeah. So Blue Sonja is one of my favorites out of Sonjaversal. We just went with the primary colors first, with the red, blue, the yellow, then the green, the purple, etc. So Blue Sonja is like basically she's like an 80s action movie hero. She uses guns and bombs and motorcycles instead of swords and horses and dragons, So yeah, I needed to have Blue Sonja come back in this book. And then I said, you know what, let's round out the team with two new characters. Moon Sonja was actually my wife's idea. She saw me making up all these Sonjas and she needed to get in on it. And I said, yes, absolutely. And Moon Sonja is basically like a hyper sci-fi, like AI robot Sonja, essentially, who is kind of like the team's like hacker for when they go into like sci-fi scenarios. In the book, they'll go into fantasy worlds, but they also go into sci-fi stuff. And then Gold Sonja is purposefully mysterious, will not tell anyone what universe she's from because she's on the run from someone in that universe. And she's basically like the team's like driver. Like she'll like, if they need to like hijack like, an aircraft carrier or a dragon, she can do it. She can pilot it all.
Ooh. Okay, so for people that want to jump in here with Sonja, is it better for them if they go back and hunt down Sonja Versal?
I think it would enhance the experience, but I absolutely know that like that would be a dumb thing for me to insist on with a new book. So all the info you need is right there in the first couple pages of Hell Sonja. You don't even have to have read an original Red Sonja if you don't want to. All of the info is covered, and it's just more goodies for you to explore if you like Hell Sonja.
So you mentioned your wife. Does your wife work in comics, or is she just exceptionally awesome at thinking up cool comic things?
She doesn't work in comics, but she does work in animation. She most recently designed the characters for the Adult Swim show Bird Girl.
Wow.
So she does absolutely know her way around cool characters.
Yes. What a great person to have around to collaborate about.
I agree. That's why I married her.
Nick says Nick Baruchi's on, publisher at Dynamite. When someone reads Hell Sonja, they'll probably want to get the back issues. That's true.
I completely agree.
And they should be able to find them because, as far as I remember, Sonja Versal was still easily reorderable for LCSs, or I'm sure that there's a trade paperback that's easy to get for some people that like to have things that fit on shelves much better. So,
yes, very excited for that thick Sonja Versal trade.
Absolutely. So, beyond Sonja Versal, what else have you done? Any other Dynamite books?
A couple of years ago, I did a $6 Million Man comic that we sort of reimagined it as the $6 Million Man really struggling with his first mission in the field, getting used to his robot parts, and basically was a cyborg breaking down over the course of every single issue. It was a little bit more comedic than the original TV show. But the artwork's incredible and like the action is awesome. I still think that book is so cool. But that's it. And then just a ton of different Sonjas.
What a great like time period to think about exploring for that character, because everyone's always like thinking about him in terms of he knows what he's doing, already kicking butt, but surely he had to like have that. Like for people that I'm thinking of people that have like new implants for like when they've never heard before and then they get to hear, or if they haven't ever seen before and now they can see, that it takes them a really long time to be able to, they can't just like see and do fine. They'll like stumble around because they don't really know how to use that information for their brain. So this makes
I don't think super speed would go great for me my first time.
What would you use it for? If you got super speed, what would be the first thing you'd try to use it for?
First thing I'd try to use it for, man, where do I have to get some? I mean, I think I would suddenly be a very mysteriously new on the scene sports savant. Like, who is this? Who is this incredible new soccer player who looks very out of shape but is pretty fast?
Soccer's a great place to use it.
Yeah, all that back and forth.
Oh yeah. What other projects have you worked on that people might recognize your work in?
Well, I started out in comics doing a series called The Adventures of Dr. McNinja, which is about the adventures of a doctor who is also a ninja. Who comes from a family of ninjas.
You need to go together all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So I did that for a long time as a webcomic, and the trades were eventually published by Dark Horse. And then later on, I did a pretty long stint on Adventure Time. And then more recently, co-created the unbelievable Gwenpool from Marvel.
That's it.
Yeah.
Series. Sometimes I don't like put together who's worked on what.
Sure.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I miss Gwenpool a lot. That was such a special book, especially working with Gurihiro.
So Gwenpool was one of those characters that kind of like just showed up. It wasn't. She didn't exist before, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, we're just like put two things together, and they worked really well. But that one stuck around. It was one of those things, I think they almost intended it to be like a show up in a book and then anymore. Was that you? Did you create the character?
It's such a weird creation myth with Gwenpool. But basically, like, so she was original. That design of her costume was originally a series, part of a series of variant covers for a Deadpool Secret Wars, and that which was by Chris Bacallo, and so he designed her costume and like her whole look, and it was just supposed to be this Gwen Stacy variant, but then like all these fans started doing fan art and cosplaying as this character that did not exist really. So Marvel came to me and kind of wanted me to see if I could make her a real person or not, with the caveat that she could not actually be a Deadpool character. She could not be Gwen Stacy, and she had to debut in the back of Howard the Duck. And somehow all of those weird ingredients turned into a character that was able to have like 25 issues and 2 Christmas specials.
Was it your idea because doesn't all of her dialogue show up in pink?
Yeah. That was, although I'm not sure if the pink dialogue was my idea initially. Actually, now I don't remember that. That may have just been the letterer's assumption. And then I made it that like that pink balloon then became part of her character, that it was like, that was her accent that proved that she was from a different world. Like in Doctor Strange was the only person who noticed it. Because of course he would.
Yes, he would.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. So you got handed the reins by Marvel to create a fully functional character, a realized character.
Yeah, and particularly neat that like when you do that, like you're not bound by a lot of the normal rules of work for hire comics, where it's like you get the toys and you have to put them back where they came from with Spider-Man or something. But with Gwenpool, it's like I made it all up, so like I can have the character change over the art, which was tremendously freeing.
So have you wrapped your mind around the point that with all of this multiverse jumping, that you might see a character that you created on the Marvel big screen and have your name in the scroll at the end?
I mean, I got it with that Loki show. Because I wrote Vote Loki, and like I guess the show is the version of that President Loki is like the what if he actually became president. But yeah, got the tiny name at the end with all the other comic writers. They sent me a nice box of Loki merch. I still love my TVA mug. I drink coffee out of that pretty much every day. Well, we're freezing.
We have a supposition that we've heard rumor that we heard that everyone's been talking about Miss Minutes, that instead of being just kind of an ancillary character that we'll never see again, that she's actually super important and may, control all of time space.
Yeah, why not? I love goofy mascot characters being revealed to have like terrible cosmic powers. So that's exactly what that would be. But yeah, there's no way they're not bringing her back for something. Everybody loved Miss Minutes.
Yeah, she seems so sweet and Aunt whatever. But those characters could be terrifying.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Oh, so for Sonja, is it another short series like Sonja Versal was?
Yes. Right now, I've written 5 issues, and each one is like basically like I'm still treating it very episodically. The second arc of Sonja Versal I treated pretty episodic with like a different little one and done story, but with like an arc across them. We're doing the same thing here because it's just like we're doing this multiverse stuff. I just want to show a different multiverse, a different universe in every single issue. And so, yeah, it's really fun just to treat it like a villain of the month kind of thing where like, all right, we're going to this planet that was flooded and there's a haunted boat or like, we're going to go kill this warlord in medieval times or, raid heaven. That's an issue 3. That's a fun one.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. I haven't seen the art yet for that one, but, it's been very exciting to give Pasquale, our artist, like just the biggest, craziest prompts. And I've been mostly writing double page spreads for him so that he can just like have all this room to do big, crazy stuff with it.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so from what the description you've been giving of this book, it feels like not only are we going to get first appearance of specific versions of Sonja that weren't already shown for Sonyversal, but maybe some brand new bad guys. Is that true?
Oh yeah, new bad guy every issue.
Okay.
Yeah, completely unrelated to any of the Red Sonja mythos. I think what's it? You're trying to expand instead of just constantly drilling down deeper and deeper into the mythology. So yeah, a lot of new stuff.
So are there pairings in this book or in Sonyversal that you like think someday I want to write an entire series that's just that character? Because I love them so much.
Always, yeah. Like all of these have been like little backdoor pilots in every panel. Just like I love all of them, and I could easily like try to do more with them. It's a lot of fun to like just come up with like this whole rich little backstory and then just only allude to it in a sentence and then move on, and like it's there if you want to come back to it.
Yes, the big T's, right?
Yeah.
So that being said, after Hell Sonja, do you have already planned another series that either deals with these characters together, like you've done before in Sonyversal, or totally something else that you've just always wanted to tackle in the Dynamite universe or another universe?
At this moment, I'm still writing. I still have issues 4 and 5 to finish. I just hopped on this call after working on issue 4, so I haven't really gotten a chance to think that far ahead. But like that's the cool thing about just cracking open this multiverse is like you could go anywhere with it.
Yes, I love it. You have other work coming up for any other publishers?
Let's see. I've been adapting the Five Nights at Freddy's novels into graphic novels. The third in the trilogy just came out I think last week or 2 weeks ago, called Five Nights at Freddy's: The Fourth Closet. It is the third in the trilogy of those graphic novels. And then a little later this year, we move on to the Fazbear Frights series, which is their collections of short stories. So each graphic novel has 3 scary stories about haunted robots in the Five Nights at Freddy's verse. And those are a ton of fun. I love writing these scary books. I love the horror. And then conversely, I'm also working on a kids comedy book, a spinoff of John Green's Agents of Suit. Investigators. And the spinoff is called Agents of Suit. And they are about alligators who wear vests. They're investigators. And
I love that series. I totally read the first one.
Oh, great. Yeah. So we're doing a spinoff with the other characters' adventures. And the first one, actually, you know what? I don't think I'm allowed to say what's happening in the first one. So I'm going to stop right there.
We don't know anything.
But it'll come out.
I'm super excited about that thing we weren't talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. But they're, I really love doing these very completely different things where it's like we have weird, like epic universe, like sprawling, Hell Sonja, and then we have this like video game horror thing, and then like puns for kids. It was great.
You're going to make everybody's day, because there's so many people that have been asking me. Kids are hungry for reading. I mean, it's clear, because that's the biggest growing segment outside of manga right now, is that the youth market, and they'll buy a book and like tear through it and need another one in half an hour, honestly. So
yeah, we can't make them fast enough.
And they've been asking about, why are there Five Nights at Freddy's books? And I was like, I'm sure they're working on them. And now I can tell them I know the dude that's working on them.
Oh yeah, we've got so many of these in the pipeline. Like they are not stopping anytime soon.
Oh, don't. And you don't ever have to, because I think that companies sometimes think that the kids are done with something, like when the video game isn't as hot as it used to be, but they're still making like Plants vs. Zombies books and books that are just as popular now as they were when they first started, because kids, as they're like, I think that their older siblings are into something and they're not quite old enough. But mom says you're not old enough for that yet, especially for like Five Nights, because you're like, my kid's never sleeping again. You're like, wait until you're 5 or whatever. So now it's new to them, right? They've got to get their own copies of it from grandma and enjoy them. So I hope you keep making them for a really long time, because you're going to make my kids section very happy.
Good. I'm really thrilled to hear it. Obviously, none of the kids who read these Freddy's books email me, so I have no idea who's reading them. I see that they sell, and I'm like, great, but I'm always glad to hear.
You should start a little like fan club for kids or something. So I don't know, maybe parents are thinking like, don't bug the adults.
Yeah.
So do you do anything that is not related to comic books that you want to, like, fun thing you didn't know?
Sure. I am also an actor on the narrative play sort of comedy Dungeons and Dragons podcast called Rude Tales of Magic. And it's one of these D&D podcasts like your Critical Role or Adventure Zone, but the world is like Looney Tunes in hell. It's really weird and wacky. It's a lot of fun. I play a failed lich aristocrat skeleton wizard called Frederick de Bonesby, and it's DM'd by Branson Reese, the creator of the FX cartoon Swan Boy, and I'm tremendously proud of it. I think it's great. I think we do a lot of fun stuff with that show.
So how long has the show been running?
I think we're coming up on 3 years. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Definitely two, at least two.
So how did it get started? Was it an idea that was fully realized, and then they just like fleshed out who would be right for having the great personalities for being on, or
it started off
playing it?
What's that?
Or were you already just playing it and you're like, you know what,
we were already playing.
Turn on
Yeah, it was a group of friends that we all did meet through, like, we were previously doing improv comedy in New York City. So we're already used to doing that kind of comedic acting and making stuff up on the spot, which is great for Dungeons and Dragons. And so we were already playing, and then our show's producer reached out to the Dungeon Master and was like, hey, I think you'd be good I want to do this new kind of program. I think you'd be good to run it. Who do you think you'd want to have? He's like, I already have them all. and that was it. We just moved our game from his apartment to a recording studio.
So what is the key to improv? I mean, do you always go in with crippling fear and you just overcome it, or you just like I don't care, I'm just going to do whatever comes out of my mouth? What's the key?
There's fear. It's not crippling. In fact, a lot of the teaching is that if you are scared of something, that's the direction you should probably go in. So you're constantly facing your fear, which is awful. But I mean, I think the biggest thing is you really try to listen to the other performers and what they're doing, because when you're making it up on the spot, it's the best thing you can do is just react to what the other person is doing and building off of that.
I'm just amazed always when I watch improv, because it feels almost like the people that are part of the improv are reading each other's minds, because it works so well. And even when it doesn't, when it kind of like starts to fail, it feels like it's part of the thing, right?
If they're good at it, yeah. Yeah, no, I didn't perform improv for that long in the scheme of things, or compared to other improvisers, but like, yeah, when you go see like a good show, you're like, that was magical. That's all that can be described as, like, that was magic. I don't know how they did it. Mm-hmm. Like, how great to witness that. It's gone forever now.
So do you feel like your improv helps you in your writing as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, it really does. I mean, it can be very difficult to stare at a blank page with no ideas. But, doing that constant improv training where you just have to go on stage with nothing and start talking, and something's going to happen and be shocked that it's actually good. You can do the same thing writing words instead. And then the extra benefit is you can delete them if they suck. Not a big deal. So yeah, it's been a huge help to the writing. It makes me write a lot faster, which is great.
All right. This is so cool. I could talk to you for a million years, but you've got stuff to do writing for. And Hell Sonja #1, is that this week or really soon?
I think it's out this week. I got a box of comps, so I've read it. So it's certainly
awesome.
printed.
That means I get to read it for review this week, which makes me very, very happy.
Oh, good.
Because I've definitely loved Sonjaversal, so I'm going to be all down to this one.
Well,
if someone wants to follow you and all of the crazy cool stuff that you're doing, what is the right social media for them?
I kind of decided to swear off social media this year, but I do have a newsletter, so that all of my stuff is linked from my link tree, which is at drhastings.biz. So all the Patreon and the newsletter and a Twitter archive, if you want to look at it, all of it's there.
And it's very organized and easy to go through, so you guys should go and visit it. And here they're going to post it up here on the site, so you can go to the link tree very easily.
Oh, there it is. Very speedy.
Our producers are amazing.
Oh, I would swear we did a pre-interview, but we didn't. No. That's how on top of it.
Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate your time so much. I know it's a precious commodity. Everyone out there, please remember to add Hell Sonja to your pull list so that you don't miss it. It helps your local comic shop so much to have a heads up that you're interested in such things. They can add it to their orders.
Thank you. Thank you so much for talking to me tonight.
I appreciate you so much. You guys stick around. There's more cool stuff happening on the experience coming up next.